Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. This Hangout on Air is live. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Tim Kuhn, as always. Well, I guess not like always. At the beginning of this year, we had Albert. But with us, actually, is Albert to the end of the 2000
Hello.
summer. No, spring. Sorry, we're still in spring, right?
We're in spring.
Yeah.
We're
Got
talking
Jessica.
about the spring season.
We have Jessica,
Hello.
Nick,
On air.
and Sean.
Yellow.
Yeah, welcome to OreAni, the end of 2018 summer. So, hopefully all of y'all had fun. I know it seems like Nick did. He watched almost everything again.
I had to drop a whole bunch too. I'm going to add more. Even into next season, this past season will be retroactively filled.
Go ahead and get started. Yay! First up is Megalobox. What is the show about? And I didn't see any of it. Not even at one.
It's the anniversary anime for Ashita no Joe. I think we talked about this in the last hangout. I saw an interesting graphic from Crunchyroll because they put out these like United States streaming maps for like what is the most popular non-sequel anime that's being streamed, and half of the states were Megalobox and the other half was that Sword Art Online spin-off thing. So, you know, not to put it in the realm of like Dragon Ball or something, but like among non-sequel anime, it seems pretty popular.
Is it popular with good reason?
Yeah, it's a quality show. It's kind of hard to really talk up because, but why I like it is that it's not like a Bones anime. It's not like it's boring until all the action breaks out and then it's crazy and then they got all their superstar animators. It's very, very consistent. You know, it's consistent in the way that like Kyoto Animation is consistent, but not that level of quality, of course. But it doesn't lean on like storytelling gimmicks and doesn't lean on like explosively amazing moments of animation. Like even the low-key moments like look as solid as some of the fights. So I kind of respect that consistency. And it's also like really good at like maintaining tension. Like, sorry, I'm losing my words. Someone take over from me.
Yeah, so I actually binge watched this in the last 3 days, and it is good. I was kind of worried that around the middle section, you know, once they started throwing in some backstory and character development, it would slow down or, you know, would skimp on the animation. But in fact, it was a consistently solid show all the way through. And I'm not gonna, you know, go into the synopsis too much or the whole shtick because it doesn't really make sense that these boxers are using, you know, mechanical gear to enhance their fighting ability, because the whole point of boxing is so that you don't do that, right? Compared to bare knuckle fist fighting, boxing was designed so that you do have more of a many rounds of fighting to make it more exciting, right? So it doesn't actually make sense that to hit harder because that will end the match sooner. But besides that, you know, it's set in, I mean, there's one giant moon, mostly red. So I think it's Earth in the near future, but they don't actually say when. There's no time period. So it's kind of a, you know, sci-fi-ish setting, right? But it's also very retro in many ways. And definitely the sakuga and the animation style, the character designs, they're they're very retro, very Showa, as a lot of people have noticed. So this is the style that I grew up on. So it does hit a lot of nostalgia moments. A lot of people were watching it because they had watched the original Ashita no Joe or the Ashita no Joe 2, probably more likely because it was in. Hold on a second. When was it? It was 1970. Actually, started in 68. And ran through 73 for the manga, which was the original source. The anime ran from 70 to 71, and the second one I think was later, but from 80 to 81. So yeah, there's a lot of nostalgia, for the days bygone, right? And it is not a story crafted for the modern sensibilities. There's this doesn't pass like is that true? It has very few female characters. It's all about the men, right? And their fighting spirit. It is a very dark and gritty world in many cases, with gangsters and scam artists. And there's a lot of in the underground fighting, arena. There's a lot of fight fixing, right? So it's not a very bright and colorful future that they're depicting.
Yeah, and there's like this shady mega corporation that runs the Megalobox tournament. In addition to that,
so
I do kind of want to push back on it being retro, because it's not retro in the sense that like a Toei anime revival thing like Tiger Mask W or Sailor Moon, whatever's. It's not retro in that sense, where it's like only the people who know all about Ashita no Joe are going to enjoy this or something. It's not that kind of hopelessly retro piece, but I think it takes a lot of notes from the past, but it does present it in a way that contemporary audiences can watch.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are some character designs are more retro than others. And there are some sensibilities where you're like, oh yeah, this probably came from the original or something.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. I guess it drew inspiration. Is more apt, because the story, even if you knew the original story, it doesn't quite follow strictly, because the setting has been changed.
Mm-hmm.
But there are moments where, if you had watched the original or had read the manga, there are moments and what the characters say, for example, famous lines that are thrown out, and you might recognize them if you had watched the original. But if you didn't, it doesn't take away from the fact of the moment. They don't go into lengthy explanations or anything like that. It's just part of the story that they were able to build in. So
yeah, so as someone who hasn't seen any of the old stuff, like I never felt like I was lost or missing anything. Like, it was a pretty solidly told story.
Mm-hmm. Jessica, you were saying?
Oh, I just had a question. So the reason why I haven't watched this show is because I thought the robotic arms was kind of dumb. And I want to know, because of what you said, that there's no point in having them enhanced because it would just end the fight in one punch. Is it still fun to watch even with that kind of...
Yeah, because they use the robotic arms as a way to ramp up the tension, because at some point, and there's like a mild, maybe episode 4 spoiler or something, but in order to like work his way up through the ranks, Joe decides that I'm going to not use any gear, and I'm going to take on the name Gearless Joe.
Oh.
And now he's fighting people with like mecha arms, and he knows that if he gets socked, then he's out.
That's kind of cool, actually.
So even though he has plot armor, because Ashita no Joe,
yeah,
because he can't die until he has his whole character arc and he makes it to the end of the tournament. He can't die, he can't lose, but still I was on the edge of my seat. Like it's so effective at ramping up that at creating that tension that I forgot all about plot armor.
Okay. All right. I think you guys have sold me on this one then.
Yeah, and the robot arm thing, the mecha arms, is like part of that formula.
Yeah, so all 13 episodes have dropped. It has a decently satisfying conclusion for me. Although in some ways, I feel it didn't quite follow the inspiration right at the conclusion, because if you know what happens to Ashitano Joe, then you're like, wait, that's the ending, So I was expecting something a little bit more, but
yeah, it was also just weirdly anticlimactic. Like, it's okay that they don't follow, the exact thing that happens in old Ashitano Joe, but also it kind of resolves too fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that like Ping Pong, the animation, did the exact same thing, but I felt that was a more satisfying rendition of that kind of ending than.
Yeah, I can definitely.
Than this one, it just felt kind of jarring. It's like, wait, what's happening? Like, why did we flash forward into the future? Like, what about the.
Yeah, you don't get to the very, very end. So yeah, but it was consistently strong for character developments. They all got their little backstories, even the little kid, right? The gangster Fujimaki is freaking scary dude, and I basically recommend it to anyone who likes. I think this cuts across a lot, and of the two retro style animes this season, this Megalobox and Hisone and Masotan, I would actually, after finishing both, pick Megalobox. I really did enjoy the Sakuga, and I should mention that the director's name, the director is Moriyama, Yu Moriyama, and it's actually, he's done a lot of other work, but this is his directorial debut. So this is pretty amazing work that he was able to pull off, I thought.
Yeah, it's like amazingly restrained and mature in the way that it balanced all its elements. Like I was trying to say earlier, it doesn't lean really heavily on flashy Sakuga or anything like that. Instead it leans on its design. It leans on like smart and conservative storyboarding that's effective.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have like, I don't know, rookie mistakes, I guess, or it doesn't have imbalance. Like, everything feels perfectly balanced, and that's kind of unusual in anime these days.
Yeah, it was a very tight ship with, from everything from character designs to the concept. I don't know who actually, let me look it up. I don't know who did the series composition. It is not listed. Weird. Okay, but they did a great job with that. The animation company, which is TMS, which they since it's TMS, it's called Thomas Entertainment.
Huh.
They've done. It's hard to say what they've done. I know they've done like Ampamon.
Right? They've been around for a long time. They've done a lot of random things. Most people say they've done Akira, and they've done feature films like that.
Yeah, they've been around since the 70s. So
yeah.
So there is no good list that I could find, but they've contributed to a whole bunch of things. Ampamon, Yowamushi Pedal, Conan, Detective Conan, and so on and so forth, right? So and they've contributed to other as a joint, but yeah, they did a great job. So I'm very happy, and yeah, if you do get a chance, maybe after the fact, you might want to read what the original story was like for Ashitano Joe, because that's a classic manga, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that you might have been expecting certain things to happen following the manga and the major points in the manga, right? It doesn't quite follow that. So there's still a surprise around the corner. So
I do like that most of the boxers have like a nice little backstory, like that raised some of the emotional stakes in the fight, and it made things more interesting. And but they didn't go too hard into backstory theater. Like there was the guy who was a war veteran, but they don't go into extreme detail about like this is what the war was and here's who they were fighting and blah 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 blah. You know, it just sort of shows that then after training in boxing, he had to go fight in this war, and then he saw something traumatic happened, and then he came back to a different person. And you know, it's nice and compact and affecting in that way. It's not like over the top, like 5 episodes of backstory theater type thing. It's like just enough. So I think that's another way in which the show has a sense of balance that a lot of other anime don't.
Agreed.
All right. Thank you, guys. Depending on this next season, if we have time, I'll probably pick that up as well.
Yeah, me too.
Next season is kind of, you know, it's a summer, right? So, I mean, it's already starting, but I could already tell that it's not that good of a season.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot to look forward to. Like Furious the Jaeger from PA Works might be fun, but otherwise, I don't know what else to look forward to.
Come on, there's like 3 isekai shows.
Oh, shoot me.
Okay, next up, we got Otaku ni Koi wa Misukashi. I actually completely forgot about this show.
Me too.
Amazon Prime needs to do a better job of saying, hey, don't forget your anime here.
Oh, yeah, don't get me started on those idiots.
So what do you have to say about this show?
Not much, only that you really should check it out. It's really cute, it's funny, and in some places it's even poignant. I'm not 100% caught up on it either, stupid Amazon, but Nick recommended it to me, and I really enjoyed what I've seen.
Yeah, it's one of the rare shows out there depicting people who, you know, work in a business and have sub-otaku interest. And the show's not necessarily about balancing your otaku nature with work. Like, it's a little bit present, but that, like, the piece is more about, you know, a group of, say, about 4, give or take a few family-friend relations characters as they go about their day with their otaku interest, and, like, kind of expanding their, you know, kind of like love relationship into the future. And I was just really sold into it for what they kind of exposed the viewer to. Like, there was always stuff going on. To me, it wasn't really boring. I kind of had the sense going through it that after the first episode kind of put the hook in you, it just kind of like it didn't back down. Like, to me, it just got better and better until maybe it just kind of edged out somewhere a little bit. But like there was that show from like a few seasons ago where I was really upset with it because like I liked its premise, but then like the rest of the show kind of fell flat, to me at least. And that was that the NEET gamer who, you know, retired from work and was like somehow being a NEET off savings before returning to work. But
the MMORPG junkie.
Yeah, recovery of a junkie, but the recovery part is kind of questionable. But like this show is kind of what I hoped that show to be, kind of a thing. So I really liked a lot about this, and you know, perhaps it's not for everyone, but as a romance show not based around high school with like a lot of anime fan humor baked in, it's a pretty solid title.
With the first episode, I was a little concerned that all of the jokes were going to revolve around her trying to remain in the closet and try to avoid getting outed, so to speak. but she gets outed within the first episode, and so that's no longer a part of the narrative. It happens. She finds some cool people to hang out with, and if you're the type of person who's ever been slightly nerdy, I think this show will really speak to you. Especially, like Nick said, it's not in high school, so that's major points right there.
I think that's a recurring theme with this group. If it's not in high school, you get a +1, right?
Yeah, well, that's,
High schoolers need to get off my lawn.
Yeah, well, so, I mean, this is...
So Albert, it's going to reach a point. I'm telling you right now, I'm calling this. If it's not isekai, it gets a +1, all right, man? We're going to get away from high school.
That's already a +2 there, so...
Yeah, that's how I view Gone Crest 4.
So this show's +3 already, huh?
Yeah, so Otakoi is kind of interesting because it actually started as a web manga, right? Someone just started up making it and putting it up on Pixiv. And then it actually got picked up for actual publication. And I think there is five volumes out currently. And then it got an anime adaptation, right? So yeah, the setting's interesting. The character designs are super cute. Here you see the two protagonists, Narumi, the girl, right, who's trying to hide the fact that she's otaku. Specifically, she's done some doujin work, and she's not into cosplaying, but she does do a lot of other things, And then her the other protagonist, Hirotaka, who's the guy that's smoking there, who really annoys me to no end, but he doesn't care. He just is like, during work break, out comes his Switch, and he's playing games, right? So that's the premise. And you know what? This is a Japanese anime. So if you're expecting actual romance, just don't get your hopes up, right? Mm-hmm. Because you find they're adults and they're supposed to be dating, but you find out they haven't even held hands, like in episode 8 or something, when they go to the amusement park. You're like, what? That can't be real. So it's not a real depiction of a relationship. It's an anime relationship. So you have to get over it. The rest of it comes from comedic effects, and when they have they're off model. It's not off model, but on purpose, they'll have like comedic faces and little gags, and they'll have their little text messages show up, or like you would in a game or a visual novel, the text comes up explaining what's going on, and it'll show up like, oh, Narumi is trapped. She can't get out, things like that. But so yeah, it was entertaining enough that if you ignore the romantic angle, it's funny, and you could see a lot of it coming, right? What I wanted to bring up, what I want to talk about is actually this. So in the series, in several episodes, they go and take a look at otaku culture, and if you have been to Japan, you may recognize some of these locations. And these are actual locations. So I've been to a couple of these. I'm sure Sean has when you've been to Japan.
I know that one.
Yeah. And that is what it looks like, all right? So here, Hirotaka is playing Switch, and that is an actual Nintendo Switch, and the actual game he's playing is Monster Hunter, I believe.
Yep.
There's a billboard with Saikano, right? That's one of the actual billboards that they put up. Here, Jessica, I'm sure if you look at it closely, you'll recognize that is Mahoyome, right?
Yes. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm really curious how rights in Japan work for showing a product in other media, because in this scene they show real properties, real IPs all over the place. So did you have to secure the rights to show that image?
Yeah, I'll go through that. So that was why I wanted to bring all of this up, right? And then this is I forget. This is one of the manga, I believe. Naru is And so that's Yuri Yuri, right? Very famous. 3 seasons of it. Both of these are actual manga. Teijino Senpai, I think, is a light novel series, but that's also a real product. That's a Boys Love. That's an actual product. The only thing I couldn't really get a lot of was this magazine section. Those magazines, I Googled it and it did not show up. I did not get a solid hit. So I think those might be made up. But at the end, if you look at the credits, there are right there, it says in Kyoryoku means in association with, right? So Animate Shinjuku, all of these are the titles that you've seen, including Yuri Yuri on the lower left there, Nintendo Switch, right? Monster Hunter. So apparently they were able to secure cooperation, right, with these companies. And it's the same with other later episodes where they do show other products or recurring ones. You know, I was kind of surprised that it was the actual thing, right? Because I recognized Yuri Yuri number 16. I'm like, that's the actual cover. So I got curious and looked at it, and yeah, sure enough, they apparently were able to get either the publisher or the author's permission to just have a product placement shot. So, but normally, you're right, without that kind of securing, that's why we see McDonald's, right, all the time, or McRonald's, or any number of variation, you know, because of securing rights. So in the official, whatever, the anime, they're very sensitive to that. And there have been previous problems, you know, with using unauthorized use for commercial. In the doujin world, it's a whole different story, but you know, in the actual, I remember there was something about one of the magic shows from a couple seasons ago unintentionally used a magic circle that was some
Game No Life.
Yeah, I think that was it. So they had to you know, issue an apology, and then I think they pulled the episode for while they figured out what to do, right? So it is a serious issue for actual published works. But in this case, everything is, you know, on board, legal. So I thought that was interesting. So
I wonder if all this stuff falls under like a media company that's in the production committee. You know, I'm not that aware of like what all the media companies are, but let's just say, what if they're all Kadokawa things, you know, except for Nintendo Switch?
Right.
And it would make it easier, because otherwise, you know, they would have to get lawyers involved for each and every one of these things.
Definitely, probably that's a distinct possibility that they were, you know, they have good connections, and that's why they were able to get these products, specifically these products in. So
yeah, it also brings, what was it, Genshiken Nidaime? Was that the one that also had like real stuff and not bootleg versions of stuff? Like when they were making references to all kinds of things. Someone was trying to be like Shinobu from what's that show, Bakemonogatari, for example.
Well, you know, I think that this might even become a lot more commonplace, though, because especially if you think of it as a media company from Kadokawa, I remember there's been many animes that absolutely cameo figures like straight out of actual products, and one of them was How to Raise a Boring Girlfriend, which was cameoed in this as well. Like that one had a ton of figures that the main character had in his room. So I almost wonder if it's like a branching property thing where now that we've already got like this kind of this background product placement thing, as long as like it's these titles that we, you know, are aligned to this one company, we might see them more and more often going forward into the future in certain otaku-y shows.
Yeah, I wonder if it means like over time there's been more consolidation in the anime market or something. Yeah. But whatever. You know,
because this one did figures too. There was the one episode where Narumi turned around most of his figures.
Oh yes, I love that episode. That was really cute.
Yeah, so a lot of the companies that you see listed here are kodansha, right? So like UK holder, I don't know what that is.
UQ holder. It's
UQ holder,
Yeah.
that that's a kodansha young magazine. Tejina Senpai is young magazine. Yeah, so could be that, and on the God damn, I can't read it. One on the left is all from
Sort of like
one company.
Nejima season 2 thing.
Yeah, so those are all from one company too, and I'm not really, I don't know, but it's probably there's gonna we're in an anime bubble as far as I'm concerned. So at some point there'll be a crash, and having these kinds of good relations with within your multimedia company, production company, or with other companies, I think is going to be important. So
I wonder if like 15 years from now they're going to do a re-release of this show, but they have to take all the stuff out because the license is expired. It makes me think of re-releases of, say, Grand Theft Auto that had lots of licensed music, but then they have to take or replace all of it.
That happened
really?
with Code Geass and the Pizza Hut sponsorship. They had to scrub out the Pizza Hut from all of the boxes.
Oh my god.
Ruined.
Yeah.
Well, once they announced season 3, it was ruined, so whatever.
When is that coming out? The new Code like it always feels like it's going to come out next season. Oh wait,
yeah. Well, the consolidation movies just finished. It caught up, so it just finished, and apparently the last one had significant changes in it. I haven't watched it, but had significant changes in it, hinting at season 3 in a much more direct way. So.
They're still working on the deal with Pizza Hut. Let's get them some.
They need to get the Domino's guy in there.
Yeah, screw you, Pizza Hut. We switched to Domino's.
Yeah, switch to Domino's.
Oh, then you might see Miku. Right? Domino's. Miku.
Then like that'll be one of those other like Miku scene in anime things. But this is all hypothetical. Yeah, like I don't know. Were we done with the product stuff?
Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, like as far as it doesn't really depict like kind of like what you were saying, like a full-on relationship, but at the dating scene, it's kind of somewhat represented. I was kind of found it like funny that there'd be a lot of like, and like this anime didn't really upplay like misunderstandings too terribly much. Like there was that gamers anime from like last season where it was like misunderstandings the anime. But like one of the funny things is like Narumi would totally like misread her boyfriend and think that and be really self-conscious about herself at the moment. And like that's like we had like 2 moments of that humor, and then like it was written out of the scenario from then on. It's like, okay, so Narumi got really self-conscious and was thinking that something was about to happen, and then we just kind of went on and didn't pay that any mind. It does just kind of show a budding relationship between these 2 individuals and a slightly more mature relationship between their friends, but at the same time, that one is a little more dysfunctional seeming, not actually being dysfunctional, but like, yeah, like to me, it had a blend of all sorts of humor, and that made me not lose interest. So I respected that kind of blend.
Okay. So we go to the next title?
Sure.
Let me just say that I totally forgot about this show, the Otakoi. I saw one episode, and it seemed like it would be like mildly entertaining and otherwise inoffensive as like an office comedy. Like the office comedy part kind of gives it some novelty because there aren't that many of those. And then I saw on Netflix a show called Aggressive Retsuko or Aggresso. And that made me forget all about this one because it actually it was funny, and it also tackled all those like hard issues of like power harassment, sexual harassment, sort of like the oppressive job market from the point of view of like of millennial workers, and you know what it's like to go through the grinder of the salaryman world, and like that. That was a really cool show, and I totally forgot about it because, you know, the nature of Netflix is like you discover a show and you watch it all in like a week or two, and then that's it. So if I remembered it, I would have put it on this list and I would have given it a number. But since I didn't, I'm just giving it a shout out there.
It's a great show. Thank you, Sanrio.
Okay. Next up is kind of the opposite of what everyone's been talking about, maybe. 3D Kanojo, Real Girl. So unlike what the Wotakuni, this one is in high school. This is all about romance. And this one had some animation issues. But I still gave it a number to talk about because I actually did like it compared to a lot of the other romance animes out there. So, unlike the other title, this is not, I wouldn't really call this a rom-com, even though it has some comedic elements in there and some moments that are kind of out of there. It didn't really focus on that. It was really the romance between the two main characters, Iroha and Tsutsui. And I actually watched the first 3 episodes and forgot about it, and then yesterday watched the whole rest of it. And I'll admit, if I was probably watching this week by week, I probably wouldn't have watched it all, but doing it in a binge, I was able to get through it and enjoy it. And I think it had issues with the animation, because there's a lot of moments in there I'm like, oh my god, his face looks so weird, or that doesn't look right, why are they getting lazy here and stuff. But the romance story was actually good enough, and unlike other shows where you have the love rival, the love triangle, and other stuff like that comes in to bring issues and bring a lot of conflict, and you're sitting there going, who's he going to go for? This one does, in fact, bring a love rival, but it only solidifies the love relationship between him and the other girl. So, and that gets resolved pretty quickly. It's like probably done within an episode and a half. So you're not sitting there for 4 or 5 episodes going, oh my god, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? You're so stupid. It resolves it real quick, and because of that, I was able to enjoy it more. But I got really upset with the main character, Tsutsui, because he has a lot of issues with connection and understanding people. And rather than...
I only saw 1 episode of it, but it did kind of intrigue me because the main character was like, he had a complex. He has a complex over 3D real girls, so to speak. You know, he's one of those 2D PD people. Yeah, and I thought that was an interesting premise, you know, on what otherwise seemed like a conventional shoujo romance thingy. But I didn't follow up on it. I kind of
that plays a lot in this, but unlike other shows where it's saying that otakus are like that, it mainly focuses that it's his own problem, that he has problems connecting with people, that he doesn't know how to read the mood or understand why people are doing certain things. And it does get him into a lot of problems, and he does have a lot of self-confidence issues. Like, eventually he gets labeled as a lolicon pervert because, you know, he's the otaku and he got taken away by the police when he was helping this little girl or something like that. And it brings up a lot of hazing and name calling, but he's like, I'm the loner, I'm used to this. But It wasn't it wasn't really as bad as some other shows make it, and it eventually does get resolved within, like I said, an episode and a half. So, and I like how they bring the problems and solve them real quickly, rather than you sitting there having to wonder how things are going to. But you can get into their romance real quick, and I got so into it, and I actually forgot about one big premise within the whole show, and that was that she's leaving in half a year, so their relationship is only for 6 months. And I completely forgot about that until they mentioned it near the end. I'm like, what? Their relationship is going so good. I just forgot about their leaving each other eventually. Now what's going to happen? So there's still one more episode left, and I hope to get the.
No, 12 is it. Unless you
Yeah,
haven't seen 12 yet.
I don't think I've seen the last one. I think
Okay.
I only
you might have, because season 2 was announced.
Yeah.
maybe I'll have to check. But as far as I know, I think there's one more episode from what I saw. But
Okay.
it wasn't, like I said. As far as romance and the story goes, it was good. But the animation definitely had some quality issues.
Let me ask you like this as non-spoiler as possible thing. In the last scene of the anime that you last watched, were they at a ramen shop eating ramen?
Oh yes, I think they were.
Okay, that was the last episode.
It was.
Yes.
Oh,
You have to wait till January.
that actually upsets me now. I wanted a resolution to what just happened.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, they totally loom this thing like this is like a kind of a somewhat temporary relationship, and by the end of it all, it's like, so what about that big part of the premise? And as Albert said, like even if it gets a season 2, it's just a really weird note to end a season like that was a really weird season finale. And there's a whole lot that's like not finished, and at least it's gonna attempt to finish it in anime form because I really don't go back and check out manga or light novels. So
That upsets me.
Well, read the manga then. It's a concluded story, 12 volumes. So yeah, I actually have not finished this series. I'm like in episode 6, I think. I just didn't have time because I was watching Megalobox. But it wasn't a bad show. It just kind of fell on the wayside because I was watching so much and I had a lot to do this season. But yeah, if you want the conclusion, you'll have to wait. And it's one of those shows where the premise of oh yeah, let's date. Oh, by the way, I've only I'm moving in 6 months, so that's when we'll have to break up, right? But if you know the shoujo genre, you know that that's not all of it, right? Usually it's something else that's forcing her to say, oh, I'm moving in 6 months, when it might be something.
I felt that element of foreshadowing present, but since I didn't get a true finale, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's definitely got that, right? I think it is. I think it is. So hopefully it won't end like Your Lie in April, is all that I'm saying.
Well, the really weird thing about that to me is I feel that like the foreshadowing kind of stops. So like I kind of felt that at the beginning, and there's an introduction of a character near the end who kind of, I guess he could be a part of it, but like it almost kind of shifted gears in its foreshadowing. It's like, okay, that might have been the story. Here's this new angle. So like yeah, I'm just gonna wait for season 2, or hear what you think if you finish it off and all the spare time that you think you'll get from this next season.
But the other thing that I like, definite real character development, and you could tell that with Iroha, the main character, she changes a lot. her mindset and everything, and they even go back into like why she is the way she was at the beginning, and you can see how much she's changed. Well, the guy, he's changed, but it's hard to say where he's changed at. That's unfortunate, but the girl's changed a lot. But I really enjoyed it.
Well, maybe when the Blu-rays come out, there'll be a better quality. Because I'm looking up the animation company. It was done by a company called Hoods Entertainment. And, they have a lot of collaborative work. But for stuff that they've done Seikon no Quasar, right?
Oh,
Mysterious Girlfriend X, which was not bad. If Her Flag Breaks from 2014. And then from this year, Melhen Medan. Or, yeah, what the heck?
Maid Hen. Yo, that Maid Hen show. Oh my god.
It had a lot of production issues in it.
Markin.
Yeah, that was like.
Markin.
Yeah, it's like the production issue anime of like the season. Like
Right.
they delayed the episode. It was so bad, and what you got after the delay was. Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah, I wanted to take a picture because there was one definite scene where there's this guy with derpy eyes. I was like, oh my gosh. When I saw that, I was like, I can't unsee that now, but the story was good enough that it kept me. But I think this show is definitely something better as a marathon watch than week by week. So now that it's all out, I think you can probably enjoy it a little bit better. All right, let's go to the next title, which is one of the craziest things out there.
Absolutely.
Right?
It's probably the best show for the season.
Hina Matsuri, right?
Yes.
Yep.
With the Terminator parody.
There's a whole lot that happens in this show, or like a whole lot of subject matters, I guess. Like especially in the first half, where it went from the sort of like sci-fi Terminator, Yakuza turned parent guardian thing, and then it introduced another character, and then it became a depiction of the homeless lifestyle in Japan. And like so many times in like the first 5 episodes, I was like, what am I watching? Like, like just like this crazy blend of subject matters, and the mood shifts from sort of like somber, I don't know. But in a nutshell, it's a comedy. It's a situational comedy. It's a sitcom. And if you think of it in that way, then a lot of it does make sense, even if it has a lot of like fantastical elements and it has these weird arcs. But yeah, I don't know. I liked it. I don't have much to say about it right now.
So my only question is, what is it about?
It's hard to
What do you
explain.
mean?
It is about sitcom. That is essentially its plot.
Because when I watched just the very beginning of it, and I couldn't figure out what the goal of the whole show was to reach the ending. So,
Yeah.
do you?
I mean,
is our goal right now, or is it just a bunch of stuff happening?
No, the first episode.
It's almost slice of life in that sense. Like as bad as slice of life sounds for this series, it's kind of slice of life.
I mean, the first episode introduces one situation, right? Where the Yakuza has to take care of alien girl with telekinetic powers or something. And then that's sort of that becomes an eternal wellspring of comedy. And then I think the next episode introduces yet another character and puts her in a weird situation. And then there's another character and then she's put in a weird situation, like she becomes a bartender or something.
Uh-huh.
So it's continually introducing like characters and situations, or sometimes changing the situation of one character to, like that girl who lives the homeless lifestyle doesn't stay homeless forever, but she is homeless for like a good 5 episodes or so.
Yeah,
The
half
last
the
arc of
show.
that was kind of really nice. Like when she hangs out with the protagonist for like a day, and he's all like, "Can I get this one?" Yeah.
Yeah,
But
so
go ahead.
it's a it's a comedy, right? It's a gag comedy in many cases. It's got some sci-fi elements, but yeah, overall, it's all about the little, very quirky characters, right? And I personally really enjoyed it. I was looking forward to it every week. I did not think this was going to be a good show when I first watched it, but then by episode 2, I was in because of the characters and how despite how wacky the situation got, Nita is like, okay, I'll just deal with it. Right? And Nita is the gangster guy. And at first I thought, maybe Hina had some sort of power to force him to take care of her, right? Because if a telekinetic girl who destroys your prized, possessions just shows up in the middle of nowhere in your apartment, you'd get out. But instead, he ends up taking care of her. So I'm like, maybe she's got this power, but that's not what happens with Anzu, right? Anzu is the other telekinetic girl, and she ends up living a homeless life because she's stuck. So, all told, it's because of these, weird, unique characters that I really did enjoy, and they do change, they do learn, and about the only person that really doesn't is the main character, Hina. She's just kind of the same, and the story revolves, everything is changing around her while she's just kind of clueless. So
Yeah, I feel like Anzu is the only character who actually has some sort of character development. Where
Stomi does too, I would say.
He told me,
She's forced
Yeah.
into
yeah.
she's
Yeah.
a middle school, right? Junior high, and she's forced into blackmailed into becoming a bartender. And Utako-san, the bar owner, she is a horrible person.
I love it when she runs into the school teacher. I forgot about that.
Dude, I remember when she's like kind of forced to like take her own apartment and like take on multiple jobs to support her middle schooler lifestyle as like a member of society already.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that like the show never goes to where you think it's going, except with Anzu. Like her story is the most straightforward, but the rest of it is dedicated comedy, and it's all about putting these characters in totally absurd situations, and that being the episode.
And like the craziest thing was like it always loomed over my head. Like, how are we going to get to where that last episode was? Or for the initial scene. The initial scene that we see is not like how the rest of the anime looks. And even up until like just before the last episode, I was kind of wondering, how is that going to play out? I don't see that. And I think how they chose to do it kind of like totally fits Hina Matsuri in like a weird way. Like, yeah. Okay.
I wasn't even mad that they like showed the animation from the beginning in the end again.
Yeah,
because it almost made it funnier because you knew what was going on. You get to see that guy.
You're kind of wondering the whole time, how are we going to get there? Like that still has to happen. Like, how is that going to?
And you get to see that like ridiculously well animated guy being like "Watashi no smartphone ga," like my smartphone or whatever.
I always liked how they had like the weird phrases too, like whenever anyone was in pain, like almost that like Family Guy, like Peter Griffin, kind of just this audio gag.
Yeah, people were calling it Aita Matsuri for a while.
All right, should we go to the next title or?
Sure
I also just want to say that like this is one of those Sakuga shows because it has a couple guys that are like not Sakuga in the sense of like it's well animated, even though it is. Sakuga in the sense that it's animated in an idiosyncratic fashion. Like when I saw the first episode, I knew right away it's like, oh shit, this has these two guys working on it. I think it was Ryo Araki or something, and Tetsuya Takeuchi. But they're like one is the protege of the other, and it's like one of those teams that you can recognize on site. And when I saw the first episode and like realized who was animating it, I knew that I had to watch the whole thing. And it is pretty nice that they had a whole lot of presence in like the first handful of episodes, and some of the back episodes like toward the end of the show. But it is nice to see idiosyncratic animation and to have a team like that kind of take over a show and like put their stamp on it, in such a big way. Rather than like they just show up for a scene and animate a cool battle and that's the last you ever see of them. Like I feel like that doesn't happen that much in anime anymore, because there aren't that many animators that are truly idiosyncratic. Like you just look at their animation, that, oh, it's these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like there aren't that many these days, because all the styles have sort of like blended together and everyone kind of draws like everyone else. But yeah, that's the end of my rant. We can move on.
actually, I have one question for you guys now that I think about it, because you mentioned that this is a great show, that it's awesome, probably the best of the season. I think I heard someone say. But who would you recommend this to? Just any otaku, or?
I don't know. I think like, I don't know if you can recommend it to the average person. I think they have to be pretty accepting of otaku stuff. Because there are like moments of fan service where I was like, whoa, like you get a shower scene, or you get an entire episode where
Like
there's a
typically
girl,
whenever
there's a naked girl.
Mao.
Whenever a character is introduced. But yeah, I'd almost say like anyone who's even if you only have a few titles under your belt and you're already kind of like, anime is a thing I'm checking out. Like, is it a gateway show? I doubt.
No, it's not.
But like, if you've like watched 4, you're like, okay, I'm into anime, I'm looking for more. This might just be like that title that just shows you kind of like what anime is capable of in terms of like, you probably won't get content like this in any other like live broadcast, live action movie, TV show, anything. So like as a piece to recommend to someone to kind of like expand their views on what anime can offer, I would just say like, yeah, if they have like a handful of titles under their belt, try it out. But as a gateway show, probably not.
No, I feel like it's like you need to at least be like a mid-tier otaku, so to speak. I don't know how to really put this, but
is this like a show you would watch just before you get to like Excel Saga?
I would watch. I don't know. Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend Excel Saga in this day and age, only because like it might be obscurely hard to obtain.
I mean, Excel Saga has a certain appeal because it's just so like frantic that even if you don't know what the fuck is going on, it's hilarious. Where I think Hinamatsuri is a bit more grounded, and I think it kind of plays with a fascination you might have with like mundane Japanese living. It's like you need to be a little bit of a Japanophile, and you have to be willing to excuse some of the anime isms.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't just be like, I don't know.
All right.
You had to have had your sort of otaku cherry popped with something like, I don't know, I guess back in the day it would have been like Suzumiya Haruhi or something like that.
It's like the worst, like that'd be like in one of those like adult otaku games. Like, what was the anime that popped your otaku cherry? It's like, what? Huh. I would say that is,
I'm already thinking about it. I'm like, I know what the shows are for me. It's like, I thought it was weird, but I watched all of it, and then I came out I don't know, a more hopeless otaku.
The next title we got to talk about is Ginga Enyu Densetsu. Kaiko. I'm not gonna bother saying that other word.
Speak German.
Die neue These.
Ah, thank you. Who watched this? Oh, Jessica Albert.
This is one that I've always heard of, that it's the quintessential anime space opera. It has roots going way, way back to the early 80s. And so I decided, sure, I'll give it a whirl. And I even got the book to read it too. And I kind of have mixed feelings about it because the book is pretty dated. And so the anime tried to smooth out a lot of the wrinkles. For instance, in the book, they still use paper in this thousands of years in the future space-faring civilization. Paper is still used, and so the anime goes and says, no, not really. We have better tech now. And so they try and update the technology a little bit. Women, though, are still not allowed to serve in the military. And the anime did also kept that, is that women can serve in supporting roles, but they aren't actually in battle at all. And unfortunately, since this is a show about battles, you'd think that there'd be a lot of really cool space battles, but they aren't. It's just one side firing blue lasers, one side firing red lasers, and the shots of the ships are all very static. And so you don't really get a feel that it's anything more than a laser show. It's really unfortunate. There's only one battle scene I can think of in the very last episode that's dynamic, where it's a shot of inside the cockpit, so you're looking at the pilot's face. And all around outside, you can see that his mech is zooming around by the way the background moves, and that was really, really cool. If all of the space battle scenes had been like that, it would have been a really good show. But as it was, I found my attention wandering a lot, and I had to force myself to keep paying attention to the show during the space battles. So, Albert, what do you think?
Well, just more of a direct continuation off that. I know you asked Albert. I did appreciate that last moment. I didn't realize I watched this show. I guess I got too used to its English title, so that's why I didn't have it filled out. I did like that combat at the end, and after seeing it, kind of wished it was more prevalent throughout. However, fundamentally, I still do like the show as itself. I just wanted to comment really quickly that I did get a sense that a lot of times mech shows are usually about like the fight scenes, and this show, although it didn't depict it well, they could have done a lot better, was more about like the shape of how you like arrange all of your ships to fire at the other enemies. And it was really cool to see sometimes how they displayed it three-dimensionally, like inside the bridge, like the commander bridge. I do wish they kind of found a better way to try to represent the actual battlefield and have it happening, like even if you had to zoom out CG. But that's kind of like that's like a hit and miss for me. Like I really like that concept, and anime hasn't really got me kind of wondering about like what future like massive space battles would be. Like when you're firing lasers at each other, how do you arrange yourself? Like because you have like war tactics on the ground where, you know, series like anything based around Nobunaga will talk about pincer attacks. Like that's still kind of prevalent here. But then you also have that three-dimensional, like how do you like arrange your ships like most effectively, or like defend them if you retreat. Like they showed that, which was intriguing enough to me to kind of forgive them for not showing it better. But like it kind of does make me want a title that extrapolates on this type of combat even more. Like I kind of want that anime to exist now.
And they did do a really good job of showing the numbers.
Yeah.
Because the numbers that they're using here are absolutely inconceivable, where if you've never been in a football stadium where you see tens of thousands of people and what that really looks like, it's going to be hard to picture these fleets of tens of thousands of ships with millions of soldiers, because there's one battle where 1.5 million people died. And that number is so large, it's really hard to wrap your head around it. But at least in the anime, they kind of do a good job of faking there being that many ships on the screen at one time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of an up and down show for me. Is that some episodes I really liked, and then others not so much, because the taking over of the Iserlohn fortress was a particularly good episode because it was pretty tense. You weren't sure if they were going to succeed. There were all sorts of little checkpoints that they had to clear to get in there. And in the book, it's one paragraph.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're going to take over this fortress. We took over the fortress. The fortress is now ours.
Oh,
And
geez.
wait, what? So the anime did a much better job there. But
Almost makes me wonder if they like had it in a future story. Thinking back, this is what we did.
maybe, I don't know. But there are some things that the anime just sort of drops on your plate, such as the kid. He adopts a kid randomly. He's what, 29 years old? He's away for 9/10 of the year, and he has a 14-year-old kid in his house who cooks and cleans for him. And I don't know many 14-year-old kids, but the ones I do know would not be able to do that at all.
Yeah, he's a pretty solid Anzu.
Every single day. But in the book, they kind of explain a little bit about why that was considered acceptable. What were they called? The guys that ambushed his house because he wasn't patriotic enough?
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's just call them the patriotic faction because I can't remember their
patriotic
exact name.
Yeah, those guys. That was really cool in that it gave kind of a little more depth to the world. But I also felt it was weird that happened, and then he's all, yeah, I'm redeploying. Bye. I'm going to leave the kid at the house and hope they don't come back. I don't know. I didn't really buy that very well. But the uniforms got a much needed update with the new one versus the old show, because they were very much 80s style clothes. And Albert's got up on his screen a screenshot of the two characters from the Empire, and their coding, which it's so obviously German. I mean, they're basically space Nazis.
It's more of Space Kaiser. I think they're modeled more after World War One.
Kind of, although they do talk about the various genetic laws that they have in place, where if you have any kind of abnormality or what they would perceive as a flaw, you are basically aborted. You do not have the right to exist. So they do their own racial cleansing of themselves.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but I'd say more of like a physical trait rather than, or more of like a more of a disability kind of a thing than I think.
Yeah,
like
it's not
like genetic appearance.
Yeah, it's not racial. It's that
It's like we want to purge the.
They're trying to purify their own
disabilities.
bloodlines. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got they all have German names. They all have that kind of Third Reich-y type aesthetic and whatnot.
Yeah, so this is a beloved. The original anime was an OVA series, right? It was never broadcast. It actually came out 110 episode OVA. So that in itself is a feat, right? And this is classic space opera in the sense that if anyone has read something like, the Foundation trilogy from Isaac Asimov, that's space opera. It's that kind of space opera. So it's not about flashy, even though it's set during a conflict between the Free Planet Alliance and the Empire, it is more about the political intrigues that surround, the two main characters, which is the Reinhold and Jan Wenli, right? So it's all about a clash of ideologies, of characters, and the sense of grandiose history, because these are us, these are human beings in the future, and in the galaxy, right? So how these factions, if you have studied like history and like historical novels, or just stories of how stories of like Nobunaga, or Hannibal, or how Rome rose and fell, all that kind of thing, then you would actually really enjoy this anime, which I think episode 12 was the end of this season. Now, if it sells well enough, they would like to continue making more of it, because the original is 110 episodes, and I'm not exactly sure how. I haven't been comparing it to the original one every time an episode drops, but I do know that they've made some changes to modernize it. But to me, like, the space battle is the least interesting part of this, because I know how space works, right? And so I know enough that the way they fight is completely and utterly ridiculous. You do not form giant, boxes of fleet formation and fire lasers at each other. That is not how it works in real life. You watch shows like sci-fi shows like The Expanse. That's how it actually would work. You can't outrun missiles. You don't have your fleet so concentrated that a barrage is going to hit you or possibly the one next to you. All these things are not how space combat would actually work. But it looks cool, right? But at the same time, because of CG, the ships all look the same, so it doesn't look that great to my eyes. But that's a CG thing that I have against. So
I guess to that point about space tactics is I've only seen the first episode, so my opinion doesn't matter that much. But like, I couldn't get past the first episode for many reasons, but also like the grandiose space tactics stuff just felt kind of outdated. In a generation where, or in a world where we've all played video games, tactical strategy video games, and there's Kerbal Space Program, and is like the stuff that they're talking about in the first episode, these tactics, like, maybe it would have been profound, in before all that stuff came to fruition. But now that we've done it all, it's like they're explaining the most basic the genius idea of episode 1 was like, if we concentrate all our ships into one formation, then we could overpower like all these spread apart ships. And it's like, yeah, of course you could do that. That's what you would do. It's like I played StarCraft and all that. I played Homeworld.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the anime walks a very interesting line where it tries to update itself, but not too much does it stray from the source material. And in that way, it doesn't really do either of those things well enough for it to be really good.
Yeah, but like, I was just kind of saying, to me, the combat actually felt a little more in the background. Yes, they're talking about strategy sometimes. Yes, you see a fight sometimes. But like, the anime mostly centered around of like dysfunctional military, the anime. You've got like infighting and conflicting opinions, and like, if you've ever worked anywhere and you have like a chain of command, and you're familiar with people having better ideas and being in positions of power and all that stuff, like, it's great to kind of correlate that stuff to one's set of experience, especially because like, I think for people in the military themselves, they might be able to relate a tad bit better. But like, I think like one of the things that was like the weirdest to me was like towards the end, when kind of like what Sean was saying, like, this is an obviously bad tactic, you wouldn't want to do this, you leave yourself too open. There's this guy who's like forerunning this plan to do this, and like our protagonist is like literally saying, no, you don't want to do this, and they don't like listen to the guy who's one mini. They go with this one guy who then like later in the show is so still assured of his plan that when the guy's like saying, hey, now would be actually the time to retreat. If we don't retreat now, it could potentially end well for us. He literally like breaks down because he can't like what? Like I guess it's a unique spin to the story, but I that's when I like kind of got pulled from the window of the anime and went, no, you just don't have like a person like that. Like I guess for comedic, not even comedy, but like for some kind of unique to the own this particular anime experience, it was a thing. But it was like outside of that, it's like I just kind of had a facepalm. Facepalm so hard. And I think that was like, you know, if it's based off written work, that could have absolutely been in the written work, and that's what they're constrained by. But it's just like, I don't know. I still like the show. It's not on like the top of my list to like add to my collection right away, but I did enjoy the show.
I think our host might be having connection issues right now.
Okay. Well, where's the chart?
Well, Frank's is up next, but I don't know if we're done with.
I mean, unless someone else, I don't think he watched it, so we could probably proceed.
I mean, Frank's itself isn't actually finished airing.
Oh,
But
God.
are any of us soldiering through? I'm out. After 24 episodes, I am out.
Oh, yeah.
What's the most recent episode that's out? Is it
23.
23,
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on 23.
I mean,
Or
I'm ready to render a verdict on it. I know it's not over.
Oh, go ahead.
I will say,
Curious.
comparing it to a lot of just, I know what, I just want to say this before Sean does. I can see a lot of Trigger/Gainax plot in this.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at specific works like Gurren Lagann and Kill la Kill,
And Evangelion. Don't forget.
well, yeah, and Evangelion, but like Evangelion was always kind of that way to me. Like Gurren Lagann, it was kind of like a twist to the story. Like for everyone who watched it initially, it's like, whoa, all of a sudden we're in space. Kill la Kill, it's like, whoa, we're all of a sudden dealing with these things from space. Evangelion was always kind of like, yo, these things are coming from space.
Yeah, I mean, the show has, in the past 5 episodes or so, it has a serious escalation problem. Like, it went from the kind of stripped down desert island arc where the kids are on their own, they're just kind of toughing it out, like in the habitat or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're fighting epic space battle with previously unintroduced aliens.
Spoiler alert.
No, there was a scene in that episode where one of the kids, I think Zorome, said, "What the hell is going on?" And I'm right there with you, buddy. I don't know. I just don't know anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've watched enough Trigger shows, you kind of know this is coming, right? Because going even before Trigger, when they were doing like Gurren Lagann, right? You find out in the second season that no, actually the real enemy are the spirals, right? So it takes it from Earthbound to space, and it's the same with Kill la Kill. Oh, you're not just against this corporation. It's the entire the life threads that are coming to take over everything. So I was while I'm watching this, I was afraid that's what was going to happen, and sure enough, there are hints, very, very, very tiny, itsy bitsy hints. So for example, when the Klaxor princess, right, in a flashback, in a goddamn flashback, seeing, meets some of the representatives from Ape. She calls them, they're not human. And you also find out that within Ape, there seems to be, two factions, right? And so there's hints that not all is what it seems to be. I'm like, oh god, this is where it's going, isn't it? and right before the reveal of panning out to space, I'm like, oh no. And so I saw it coming, and my disappointment at seeing it was mitigated by the fact that I kind of predicted it, but it doesn't change the fact that I'm disappointed in the show. So from what was the flashback scene? Was it 19, episode 18 or 19, right?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah. So from that point on, it has kind of jumped the shark.
Oh yeah.
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 I mean, the thing about like Gurren Lagann and Kill la Kill and those kind of like super ridiculous Hiroyuki Imaishi shows, like those are built for extreme escalation, because you want to see them fight the bigger bad, and the biggest bad, where by the end of Gurren Lagann, you're like, yeah, pick up those fucking galaxies and chuck them at each other. Like,
this one is that you had that really huge fight, which was awesome, by the way. It really ratcheted everything up, the stakes. That was great. And then you had the cool down episode. Okay, this is where we get back into the swing of things. Then there was another cool down episode. And then there was another one. So you have 3 cool down episodes, and then you have this redonkulous battle later on where if they had maybe eased everything into it, it might have been better. I wouldn't say it'd be good, but it would have been better.
I could still hear the innuendo strong in our depiction of the series, but
I think the way
I'll say I was caught a little tiny bit more off guard with it. Like I guess I didn't expect, because of like what we were saying, like those other series kind of didn't have that like cool down point. I don't think it wasn't like Gurren Lagann somewhat, sure, but Kill la Kill, I think it quickly progressed into what it did. And I think like it's so weird to see their gimmick kind of like force spooned here, because like Kill la Kill, I'd say, is one of the more, or not Kill la Kill, sorry, Darling in the Franxx really got around in the anime community like this time around. So like a lot of the people who are newer into anime, but kind of like first time fans, they really picked up this show. And it seems so funny that like you're watching this show and you're gonna get that Gurren Lagann spin that you weren't. They're like, we are force feeding you our niche of a gimmick. Just take it.
Yeah, like a more restrained version of the show would have made a good gateway anime, because we were talking about gateways. Like this could have been one of those, but yeah, that extreme escalation works in things like Gurren Lagann and Kill la Kill. It doesn't work in this because this is a teen drama, right? Like the best moments of this show, I think, are the ones where it just kind of focuses on the teen drama and what it's like to sort of, facing adversity in this authoritarian world where things are controlled, and so I like those moments of the show, and I felt like it had all the ingredients to like make a decent ending, but instead they just set all that shit on fire. Like you had Ape, you had the Klaxosaurs, and then like a couple episodes later, all that's just blown up, and now we're fighting a space war with totally other antagonists. They threw what they had away.
Yeah,
for no benefit.
And then on top of which, the reveal, right? The big episode 19, Dr. Franxx's reveal of the history of this world is so ham-fisted. It's so actually boring, because I'd rather not know than know that, that's how it works. Wait, you made, and and his viewpoint, I hate that episode because his viewpoint does not matter at all. It does not impact the characters in the story. It only impacts us, the viewer. right? And that's just really poor storytelling. It's like, oh, you the viewer gets a glimpse of of the behind the scenes, but does any of that impact the characters, the kids in the story? No, it doesn't. It's just a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Here's what's happening behind the scenes.
I mean,
And I hate that.
I get it, but I think it's also kind of really important when you look at it from like more of an abstract view. Like once you know towards the ending, like what really happened and why.
Yeah, but even then, that part is partially a lie, right? Because you find out later in the actual storyline that Dr. Frank's, talking about how he created the Franks machines, right?
Yeah.
But in the flashback episode, none of that is revealed. Like he's telling you a lie in the flashback. So what was the point? And that episode should have been like 2 or 3 episodes stretched, but instead it's half the episode with the other half about Mitsuru and Kokoro, while Franks is talking about it. Makes no structural sense.
No, and it's almost like we're supposed to feel something for him when he did a lot of really bad stuff.
Oh,
I mean, let's not forget
horrible.
how he tortured 02, and we're suddenly supposed to, oh, well, it's okay then.
No. I wasn't saying that you're ever supposed to, but it's more like in why humanity had to fight the Klaxosaurs that they're now kind of allied to fight the Virm, are they called now?
Yeah.
I forget because they were like shotgunned into the story. But like it's really kind of interesting. Like again, when you abstract yourself from the show from the perspective of people that, the Klaxosaurs fought these entities before, they entered a period of rapid evolution to get ready to fight them, and people came along and they started harvesting that energy meant to fight this outer space being and like became dependent on it. So like when it started interfering with them, they started dealing with humanity, then humanity started countering them without like understanding each other. Then the entity comes in and then you're fighting together. It's crazy.
Yeah, for me it's not that like it's hard to follow or there's no logic to it. It's just they've introduced way too many concepts to like do justice to any of them.
Yeah.
Like I was expecting an ending that was more like, like even when they did the backstory lore episode with Dr. Franks, I was like, okay, this sucks, but it's not on fire yet.
Mm-hmm.
So they could do an ending that's like the kids decide that they want to oppose Ape in some way. And Dr. Franks is going to help them do that. And that's what I was expecting. But instead, everything explodes and then they're doing something totally else, like 2 episodes later.
That's exactly what I thought it was going to be, is that they call him Papa and they trust him implicitly. So the coming of age thing where you reject what you're taught, that's what I thought we were going to gear up for, not what we ended up getting.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, basically, yeah, you could sum it up with 2 words, right? Ancient aliens. So I think for the most part, since episode 19, each episode has been a disappointment. I don't think it's structurally, like, it's not a good narrative, the way they've constructed the story, and each reveal just makes the entire property kind of seem weaker because it's not well thought out. I mean, if that's what they think is well thought out, then I'd rather not have known. Sometimes it's better not to know, and leave it up to the imagination.
Yeah, I think they just got too blinded by the Gynax legacy and like just like taking the trope bag and turning it upside down and having it all, go into the batter or whatever. But
so
I think it's part of the Gynax legacy to have like really sophisticated and dense world building, but this is not as carefully constructed as the backstory of Evangelion or like all those other classic Gynax things going all the way back to Wings of Honyamis. Like,
yeah, so like
this world is like a big mess, just like a grab bag of like dumb tropes and like contemporary zeitgeist.
So I guess one thing that would be interesting in this series is that this is one I might go through and actually look at like the reviews posted on various anime sites based on like people who got into it because it was the popular anime of the season and like all the new anime fans were watching it. And like I kind of want to know what they thought about, this specific plot that we've seen follow this studio.
Well, it's kind of divided. I mean, they're the die-hard, defenders of, you couldn't, in retrospect, you could see it coming, blah, blah, blah. And then there are the others who are like me. They're basically calling it, this is dumb. We've got, I think, one more episode or maybe two.
But I meant, like, we're all somewhat veteran here. Like, I kind of want to know what someone who's doughy-eyed kind of thought of all of this.
Man, I don't want doughy-eyed people to be watching this, frankly speaking. This is gonna...
That's absolutely what happens. This is my one title, my one chance to know.
Yeah, true. Well, you find out and let us know.
Okay.
But, yeah, so basically disappointment from my end, and I'm not exactly sure how they're going to wrap this up.
It's unsalvageable. It is everything is on fire. There's nothing they could do to fix this, but I'm still gonna watch it to the end.
See, the thing about me is I never was really wrapped up into it. Like I was kind of watching it because, like I said, it was unique. It was something that a lot of people were watching, and I kind of wanted my own 2 cents about it. But like, I'm still just as meh about it now as how I was kind of going in with it. Like it just never. I was never really caring about the development of the story, kind of a thing. So I was kind of more into it because I'm somewhat of a mech fan myself, and I was kind of somewhat intrigued by them bringing personalization to like the faces of the mech and doing that. And the show largely was not about the mechs. So
I think this show lacks a sense of purpose. Like, if you think about like Evangelion and you think about all the elements of Evangelion, like that show has a point to make, and a lot of its backstory and elements are there to support that idea. Where with Frank's, like I like the parts of the show that are more focused, and I liked some of the sci-fi aspects that support the main thesis. Like even if the the whole robot piloting thing where you like have a partner and you sort of grab her butt, and then there's, I don't know, like that was stupid, but it did support the whole teen drama thing, so I could only criticize it so much, and I kind of enjoyed it. Where with the past few episodes, they've introduced so many like tangential and frankly unrelated concepts that's why it's on fire. Like that's why it's a mess.
I got you.
Yeah, and the character developments don't exactly make a lot of sense either.
Yeah, but like because like if you bring up Evangelion, like my thing was always like in the Evangelion, like the show was a lot like it was somewhat about like outside the robot drama, or biomech as I like to call it. But like they achieved really cool things. Like in the defense of Earth, they did a lot of cool stuff that they could only do like with the giant robot. Like almost what's that movie that came out that people always claim borrow a lot from Evangelion? The dual pilot.
Oh yeah,
Hollywood.
Yeah.
Trouble Adventure. Trouble Adventure. That one.
No, the Pacific Rim. Every time like people like I'm like I've never got into watching that, but they're like that movie really borrowed a lot from like the second movie especially. I heard that they borrowed a lot from like from 2 different people who didn't share their opinion ahead of time. They're like they really borrowed a lot from that. But like that's why I liked Evangelion was like we've got this like super rifle thing at times to shoot the thing coming from space. Like the combat never really made the mech feel special. So that's kind of why, like I like a lot of times I like how they use what the technology that they built in the various shows that I watch. Noah Zero was pretty cool. I just can't really get into what the Franks are supposed to be, and I feel like a missed opportunity here.
They're super robots.
Yeah, well, the missed opportunity that they didn't capitalize a lot on that would have actually brought my interest in the show a lot more is that weird berserker form that, when the pistol or the Stallman, whatever, which one's the boy and the girl, try to pilot the robot alone, it kind of like morphs into this like beast form thing, at least in Zero Two's case. Like I they showed that off once and maybe twice and thrice, but they never made it a big part of the series. And that's something that I was thinking was going to play a larger role than it did. So kind of like what Sean was saying, it's like, why do you introduce that and then like never use that? Like, what is the point?
Well, I say they're super robots because it's, it's not about them being mechanical contraptions, but about them being like superheroes.
Yeah.
So like whatever the Franks is, the whatever's the robots are doing is reflecting the mental state, So it's kind of like Gurren Lagann in that sense. They're super robots, and the more guts and courage you have, then the more super your robot gets. So I never tried to think of it in hard sci-fi terms.
Oh yeah. But then Gurren Lagann made up for it because you're throwing galaxies at each other. But
yeah,
let's jump to the next, or if anyone else has anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I could talk about Franks all day, but we can move on.
All right. So next up, we got Golden Kamui, which I hope the story is better, right, than Frank's?
Yeah. It's a better story. It's not... The production has problems, but I toughed it out anyway, and it does... It seems like everyone saw this show, and I'm the only one who gave it a score. That's kind of... I don't think that bodes very well.
I'm not in the practice of scoring a show that's been scored because I already know it's going to make it into the list. A lot of times I try to divert my scores into titles I want to bring.
Yeah, you're the latecomer, so you get to play that meta game of like, okay, I've got the most control over how this list is going to get ordered. So yeah, I've explained most of this in the last hangout, but Golden Kamui is the genre Western, but in Hokkaido, like early 1900s Japan. And I sort of watched it with respect to like how well it respects the Western genre, and it does the best that it can, like even if the production is shit. But like some aspects of it are awkward in the sense that like the Western genre has a lot of it is about immersion. It wants to immerse you in the life of this nostalgic time period.
I'm not at the screen to mute.
It wants to immerse you in this nostalgic world that no longer exists, and with lots of like research and detail and accuracy. And Golden Kamui does that in kind of a very literal sense, that it has these like explainers of like, okay, we're going to explain this aspect of Ainu culture and like what this food is all about and how you make it and how you trap these animals. It's kind of dull in that way, like when it gets into that stuff, but also I still respect it, because it is part of the Western genre to do that. Where with the Western genre, it kind of does it with production value and like, having lots of running time, where this is a TV anime, it needs to be snappy. So sometimes it does the most expedient thing, which is to just sort of explain it. But I still kind of respect it. It shows its homework, and it's like, yes, we've done all this research, and you can take our word for it that this is a vaguely accurate representation of what life was like back then. At least in the elements that are not like extremely fantastical. I'm not one to judge, but as a viewer, I just get that impression that it's like trying to be accurate on some things.
Well,
and that's pretty cool.
Oh, sorry. I thought that they had an Ainu culture consultant for the show and the manga, so it seems like it is pretty authentic, if nothing else.
Yeah, that does give it credibility. And I think one of my favorite parts of the show was like the showdown between I don't quite remember the character, but like the good guy was trying to escape from an Ainu village because he was being hunted by like this bandit marksman, like one of the best marksmen in the West, or I mean the North. And like that was very quintessential Western to me. That it's like I've got to find a way to like outsmart him in this wilderness, and he does. But they both live to fight another day. Because a lot of other things happen, like in that battle. But yeah, I like it, even though the animation quality is really bad. And it makes me almost want to read the manga, but then at the end of the last episode, they're like, season 2 airing in October. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll watch the anime.
Okay, yeah, because that's something I was actually going to ask about. I just realized I literally missed watching the last episode. Like, it just fell off my radar, so I'm only on 11 myself. I'll rectify that rather quickly, but it just didn't feel like it was going to wrap up in 12. So
No, and it doesn't. Like, the last episode is not a finale. It's not a cliffhanger. It's just, here's another adventure. Here's another little adventure in Hokkaido. And then that's the end of the show. Stay tuned for the next season.
So it's kind of like how 3D Girl ended.
So
I feel like it ends in a good place. Like I like that they started traveling out. They left the hometown of Otaru. Was that the name of the city?
Yeah.
And then they started traveling to like Sapporo and then a bunch of like towns on that trail and around it. So for shows like these, when they start visiting real places, I always just pause the show and look it up on Google Maps. And you know, that gives things a more grounded dimension, you know, like just seeing like, what is this town really like? Oh, this is a podunk little village, and oh, this is a city of like 300,000 and things like that. And you actually get to see like, here's the shape of the country and here's the path that they took to like get to each of these destinations. So yeah, it's like the rich context and history and sort of those extrinsic elements is what makes this show cool, on top of being an ode to the Western genre without it taking place in like, you know, old America. So I feel like that makes up for a lot of its production issues, even though there have been some arcs that are just total slogs. Like there was one about a serial killer in a fishing village, and that's when the show hit its lowest lows in terms of production value.
That the female H.H. Holmes murder mansion?
No. That was the one guy who they always put a golden light to represent him.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I tried to block that from my mind.
You did a good job.
Back. Thanks, guys.
Well, you inquired.
So yeah, that was the low point of the series, but I feel like it kind of recovers toward the end. Like I actually enjoyed the last couple episodes, like including the like wacky murder house.
Okay. The only thing I have to say about this show was I'm surprised by how often they fall in water and don't get sick.
They build the fire up right away. They're no fools.
Because that's like a big thing in anime. These kids fall in water, then they get sick the next day.
Dude, like
So easy,
even
but
3D Girl, it's like I went running outside at night, like no water involved.
but
That's okay. These are all like hardened warriors, right?
yeah.
Like they know how to tough it out in the wild, and also they're anime characters. So
Yeah. But I really enjoyed this show too, and I swear I don't know if it was the show or if it was just me, but sometimes I forget how small she is because it always has them in weird angles where it looks like they're the same height, and then all of a sudden they're standing up and she's like super small. I'm like, what? And
Like the face shots.
I usually forget that she's pretty young too. What was she, like 12, 13 or something like that?
I'm not sure.
I don't remember.
They
It's
keep
not
calling her a kid,
specified.
but I thought it was because she was so short.
No, I think she's a.
No.
Now she is a child.
Yeah, she's barely a teenager, I think.
Yeah, so
But like, bear in mind that of that era, that was also a lot older than it means by today's standard.
Like as you literally see like the grandmother like trying to give her away to our
Sugimoto.
protagonist.
But there are. I really like the show a lot, but I would admit that the thing I really liked the most about this was whenever Sakamoto got into these really dangerous situations, he just starts yelling, "I'm the immortal!" Ah! I just love those moments, but it seems like he's changing quite often, and I'm kind of sad. I don't think we'll see that as much coming towards the end, but.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny because, as I say, I usually don't like watching pieces like placed in the past. Like, I definitely like very modern shows, and when you start getting a lot more like rural is when I start like falling off the you're on my chopping block. And something about Golden Kamui is like I don't care about like the Gold Rush story. Like that's on my back burner for watching the series. Like I don't care if they get all the prisoners, assemble the map, and find the gold. Don't care. I just kind of like the story being told along the way. So like what's supposed to be the plot hook for most people, it's like no, the show it just kind of has that unique angle about itself that I just enjoy. So.
So we're getting close to 2 hours. Should we call it, or should we do one more title?
Last one's your title, right? Comic Girl?
Yeah, so that's what I was asking you guys. Do you want to go ahead and do this last one, or should we wait one more? Wait
I
till
can
next.
stick around.
If you want to, I just haven't seen it, so I mean,
I think what we're mostly saying is you're going to be like alone on this one.
Well,
No, I
guess
watched it.
I'll make a quick, small shout out to Comic Girl. Really not much to say. It's just four girls living in a dorm drawing manga, and it goes to their everyday life. And what was her name? Chaos Sensei.
Yeah.
Just trying to make her debut, or trying to get to become a serialized or a published author. And it seems like in the middle of the whole series, it focuses on all the other people, not really her. But eventually does go back to her, but it's always just her crying and her rejection, and them trying to cheer her up again. And but the cat makes everything worth it. And while the show wasn't great or bad, I did like the end. I would say it had a nice ending. So you like cute girls, you can cute things, slice of life, or manga life, I guess you could say. You might want to. This is probably something okay or decent. There's not too much fan service as you would see a lot of these things for. They do make fun of one of the characters because she draws more ecchi type manga, but it's not like a big focus or anything in it. So, I really don't have much else to say on this. Do you, Albert?
I mean, it's the usual moe show of the season. Cute girls doing cute things. In this case, trying to become manga artists. And in terms of actually becoming a mangaka, it's I wouldn't say it's realistic depiction, but it does show you how tough some of the trying to get a debut and a serialized story into some of these publishing houses can be, and how competitive it is, and how sometimes it's not that you're a great artist, it's that you have the mental capacity to push through the tough times, which our protagonist Chaos does not quite have. And that's the whole reason she was told to live in a dorm with other struggling manga artists, because she lacks willpower to actually pull through. So it's not a bad show, and yeah, I remember watching the first episode and expecting like just ridiculous fan service, but there wasn't. There is fan service. Okay, let's be serious. But it wasn't like what the hell was that show with the two twins, Alice and Alice, which was from. It's a short, but that one from the get go was just ridiculous because the first shot is like boobs jiggling, and then the second shot was like a panning crotch shot, right? So I'm like, I'm out. But this one was not as offensive and ended up being mildly entertaining as she struggled. Sometimes you just want to kind of slap her around and say, girl, get up and just do it. Just try, just move, just do anything rather than wallow in self-pity, which she did a lot of. But yeah, you could, if you like cute girls doing cute things, it might be the show for you. But looking back on it, would I rewatch this show? Not really. Would I rewatch K-On? Yeah, I would. So there's that.
I have one question for you, Albert.
Yo.
Did her sobbing or her crying annoy you whenever she went "hoo ba ba ba" or whatever that thing she did?
Yes, eventually, because her story arc, character development is really slow, and so yes, she was able to complete a manga that was accepted and was published, but her mental fortitude really hasn't improved as much. So I found it often quite annoying that her character development arc was delayed. But it's based on a 4-panel manga, and it's a gag comedy, right? So you shouldn't expect as much.
I think the only reason I stuck with it was when they roommate.
Which roommate?
When they introduced the final roommate, I think it started liking it.
The horror writer.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was pretty funny. So, yeah, don't have much else to say.
Yeah. Well, let's leave the rest of the titles for next week. Hopefully, you'll all be able to join me.
Can I just mention one thing really quickly?
Yeah.
I saw the Takarazuka review version of Rurouni Kenshin, and so I saw a video of it. Somebody fan subbed it on YaTorrents. It's awesome. So this is the Takarazuka review is an all-girls theater company, and they do Broadway style 2-act musicals with like a song and dance post show. So imagine that, but also Rurouni Kenshin, which is crazy, and it is crazy. And it's awesome. Someone fan subbed it on YaTorrents. Look it up. The reason why I say this is because in 1 week there's an anime called Starlight Review, which is about an all-girls theater company, and it has a review in the title, so it's pretty obvious what they're going for. So I kind of wanted to bring that up real quick. That if you want to see some real Takarazuka review, like some miracle worker actually fan subbed like an entire musical.
That sounds pretty insane. I found, hold on a second. Let me see. App window.
So an anime musical is what you're saying it is?
There you go. That's what it looks like.
Yep.
Yeah, and yes, they're all female.
Yeah. I think I saw something like it, but it wasn't all female, and it was for Prince of Tennis.
So this is like a high production value, like moving lots and lots of costumes, like moving sets and like all that good stuff. This isn't some cheap like I'm standing on stage like doing line reads in front of a mic or anything like that. Like this is like top. This is top stuff.
Okay. Well, hopefully we'll have our next hangout next weekend, and then we'll start with the summer season. So thank you all for joining us or joining me for this hangout all the time. I think we're on our 7th year of anime talk, right?
Wow. That like 7 years of Google Plus.
Maybe 7, maybe 6. I can't remember, but it's been a long time I've been with you guys. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you always being here with me, and I'd like to thank everyone else who does watch as well. So other than that, be sure to join us on Anime Talk, our community on Google Plus. We're always sharing some interesting stuff on there, and other than that, thank you and goodbye. Right? Bye, B.
Bye, B.
By who?
Bye.